You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is 12/23/20, and we just got through the winter solstice intact. Hey, got a special guest for you here. We have the old guy, Orest, also known as Orest Komarnyckyj. Orest, it's great to have you on. First, for podcasting, how long have you been doing your podcast?
Well, actually, not a very long time. I started off in March of 2020, and we've got about 40 episodes all in posted, and more already scheduled and on the way.
That's pretty cool. So you were a former stand-up comic, is that correct?
Well, I did a short stint in my previous life before I became a podcaster. I was a periodontal regenerative surgeon. I did dental implants and gum surgery. The comic thing was I did about 3 shows, and it was good training actually, and it's also brutal. A 5-minute stint, if nobody is laughing, is a eternity.
Oh yeah, the old saying: never follow anybody who's better than you. Never let them see you sweat. Right. And the show must go on. And, you always have to remember that. And the same with podcasting. Look, you're not before a live audience, but if you don't exercise consistency, meaning your podcast gets released same time every week on the same day at the same time, like Friday noontime, you're going to lose listeners because they're just not going to put up with yours. So, hey, podcasting, what's the most interesting thing you found about it?
I like the conversations I have with people. That really is it. I've gotten to meet people that I normally would not have access to, and I normally would not have had a chance to have a conversation with Forrest Griffin, a former UFC light heavyweight champion. I've had other people that have been on other huge podcasts. I had one with Dom D'Agostino, PhD, a world ketosis expert, who's been on Tim Ferriss at least 4 or 5 times, been on Joe Rogan, Ben Greenfield, a few other major podcasters. So it's an opportunity to have conversations with people about stuff that is of interest. And for me, it's all about stuff that's of interest for older guys and those they love.
And that's a great thing. And yeah, I found that too. I've been podcasting for 10 years, over 7,000 episodes. I have talked to people who listeners in Australia, in Asia, in Europe, and I have friends all over the world now that I would, like you said, never have met or come into contact with these people. Hey, and just for you FSN listeners, just for you FSN members out there, we're not always just about finance. One thing you got to understand is you make money, you survive and thrive in the new economy, the global reset. But if you can't have fun, and if you can't be doing things that you love, and if your money is not leading to a richer life, then you're really missing something major. So that's why a podcast like this is on FSN. So when you talk about the old guy, Orest, you are the old guy. You got me by a few years, but really, what do you do? Do you give advice? Do you talk about your past? What do you do?
Most of my podcasts are born out of self-interest, and that's how I pick people to interview. And I talk about stuff that quite often most people don't want to talk about. That's uncomfortable, and we talk about menopause. We talk about erectile dysfunction. We talk about testosterone replacement for men, end of life discussions, and sometimes we also do. We're not all serious stuff. Actually, all that's with a great deal of sense of humor. But we do talk also about scotch, cigars, wine. Not infrequently, I will be having a scotch and a cigar while I'm interviewing someone.
Well, that's cool, man. I've been smoking cigars for over 40 years, generally Cubans. I get them
Uh-huh.
shipped from Switzerland, believe it or not, a place I've been using for 15 years. They're actually real, honest to goodness Cubans. And I found that they're as cheaper as when I've been to Havana to go get them. And that's one of those things that if you're not into cigars, you don't really understand them. But that is one of the joys of life, isn't it?
I think it's an incredible joy. You have so many interesting conversations when you're having a cigar. And I just recently, it was a little bit unusual. I just recently taught one of my daughters how to smoke a cigar, which was very different. It was kind of an interesting thing.
Well, when you smoke cigars, also you wind up getting into lighters and ashtrays and stuff. You just can't help it. And I got torches, but it's amazing. Like these Chinese torches that you buy on eBay, I got 3 of them for $10. And I don't know how long they're gonna last, but I don't really care because generally I lose them before they stop working anyway. But for $10, you get a torch that's pretty darn impressive there. Hey, well, not to digress, but so when you live a long life or longer than most, you learn a few things along the road. What's the top thing that you have learned, especially that has come in especially helpful over the past couple of years of turmoil?
I would say that having purpose, getting up in the morning and having a purpose to your life. You see so many people that have quit their jobs and don't do anything, and they die. They die both in a physical sense, and also they die as a person while they're living. You see, when they don't have anything to do, and when they get up in the morning, they just shuffle about, and they get very old. They get old in a way that is ahead of where they are chronologically. They get old mentally, which I think is probably the worst thing. And that can happen. That actually can happen at any age. You can see 50-year-olds that are old mentally.
Yeah, sclerosis sets in. Sclerosis in the brain. Where, I was talking to a friend of mine, one of my oldest friends, and he's all COVID phobic. And I said, there's 2 things you should be doing right now, regardless what anyone says or does, whether you believe in the whole thing or not. The number one thing is you should be taking vitamin D. It's proven. It's effective. It's even had promising results in treatment. And the other thing is zinc. Those 2 things you should be taking no matter what. And there's supplements that you should take even before COVID. It can only help you. And he was so resistant to the idea. Orest, it shocked me. And he's been retired. He's just playing with his grandchildren, does a little bit of volunteer work here and there. But I'm thinking like, man, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the paranoia that's set in. According to some people, your chances of surviving COVID without any residual effects, according to some people, is like 99% if you're under 65. Yeah. And so, and the friends, I have not had COVID personally, but the friends I've had, I was actually having a cigar with one of them last night, and I said, well, was it any worse than the flu? And he goes, no. and so we have this I think this insanity going on with something that is really, yes, it is lethal. It's lethal because we really didn't know what to do at the very beginning. And I know the numbers are climbing, but it's just an interesting phenomenon. And I can't tell, and I don't really study the numbers that closely, Kerry, but I can't tell whether at least my impression is that the states that have minimal lockdowns are faring equally, or rather, in the same way that ones that have draconian lockdowns.
Oh, there's not even a question. We've seen that. A study was done by a guy who actually understands numbers. So many of the people out there involved in COVID don't get numbers. They don't know statistics, because public health is all about statistics, all about regressions, all about incidences. We have this thing called the infection fatality rate, which you alluded to before, which is now 0.2%. The common flu is closer to 0.1%. And we're worrying about this stuff when the average person who dies, and look, maybe they'd be around for a long time, is 78. and the average mortality rate of an American is 78. So that tells you a lot right there. But, of course, there are younger people who've died from it, not a lot. And there's younger people who die from the flu every year, particularly children who haven't really been that badly afflicted by COVID, a very minimal infection rate and fatality rate. So, like we've just gone nuts here, and facts no longer matter. Your fear, your emotions are your existence. You need to be able to differentiate reality from feelings, right? Because so many people, emotional living is their experience, regardless what the actual facts that underlie their existence are.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Goldterra Resource Corp is a gold exploration company that has assembled a highly prospective district-scale land position on the doorstep of the city of Yellowknife in Canada's Northwest Territories. Goldterra is currently focused on expanding and delineating gold resources at the company's Yellowknife City Gold Project, with a goal of discovering over 5 million ounces. With ready access to infrastructure and multiple high-grade gold discoveries, Goldterra is on track to re-establishing Yellowknife as one of the premier gold mining districts in Canada. Goldterra trades as YGT in Toronto and YGTFF on the OTC. For more information, go to goldterracorp.com. That's goldterracorp.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
I don't have any problems with feelings, but I want it to be based on facts. If you're locked in a cage with a lion, there's a good reason for you to be fearful.
Exactly.
If you're on the outside of the cage, there's no reason for you to be fearful.
If you're locked in the cage with a pussycat, all right, but you believe it's a lion. All right. You are going to be as fearful as if it was a real lion.
Right.
So the reality is it's a little feline here that you have nothing to be scared of. And why you're in the cage is another reason, but you don't need to go down that road. So that's the point, is a lot of emotions running wild, a lot of just loss of perspective. And, we've wound up in a place where the cure is far worse than the disease. 30-40% of businesses out of business in places like New York, Michigan, California. Fortunately, here in Florida, not so much, although we've been hit as well. Down in Miami, there's no more international travel. Mm-hmm. A substantial amount of Miami's revenue came from international travel. That's shut down now. So I don't care if the vaccine works or not. I haven't decided whether I'm going to take it or not. But whether it works or not is irrelevant as long as people think it is. As long as they're in the cage and they, perhaps what's worse than being in that cage with a lion is being in a cage with a lion, but thinking it's a little pussycat, right?
Yeah.
You go to pet it, it takes off your arm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. I heard the statistic now that opioid deaths are up by about 40%. And there's a lot of collateral damage that no one's talking about or measuring. But it's unfortunate, and it gets in the way of living your life in a significant way. And we're doing workarounds a lot of things these days, and it's just kind of sad. We went to the Bellagio in Las Vegas to look at the Christmas decorations, and we live in Las Vegas, and it was really sad at how there was hardly anyone there. And we went and had dinner at Mon Ami Gabi, which is in Paris, across the street from Bellagio. Right. It's kind of nice because you can sit there and watch the fountains outside when you're on the patio.
They have great omelets there, great breakfast.
Yeah, we like their escargot and French onion soup. And it was just so sad. The restaurant inside was empty, and the outdoor patio was maybe about 2/3 full. I mean, we had no problems getting a table, nice table right on the edge, so we could see, had a great view. And it was just kind of, you're thinking about the lives that have been damaged, the loss of hope, the desperation, the financial ruin. And some people will recover, but a lot of people will not. A lot of people will not recover.
Yeah, that is really sad. And I would tell you, if you'd been listening to the Financial Survival Network for the past 10 years, you would be one of those people who were not just surviving, but also thriving because, look, I didn't know COVID was coming, didn't know it was a pandemic, but we knew that something was going to come and pop the bubble that was going to really send us into a major economic collapse. So came by the name of COVID-19. Either way, it doesn't matter. So as an old guy, tell us the value you place in friendships and in family.
Well, I think first of all, family is real important. I'm gonna put a caveat on that too. Sometimes family can be challenging to have, depending on if they're very negative. I think that's something that a lot of people will tolerate and put up with. But family and having a good relationship with your family, I think, is very, very important on a long-term basis in terms of who you are, and also as your legacy as a parent. So I think that's very important, and we're blessed to have a great relationship with our kids. I mean, very, very good. We vacation with them. They're older. One of them's working, the other one's finishing up her last year in college. But they're happy to spend time with us. Friendships are also real important, but there again, I think you need to be picky about who you pick as your friends. That some people may say, "Oh, you're a real dick for saying that," but I think that the statement, I don't know who said first, but it's been repeated so many times. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And I think you need to be careful that you pick people that are basically support how you want to live your life. And they exemplify through their behavior a life that you'd like to live. And, it's a give and take. You offer things in the relationships, but it's not. There are certain people that I would choose not to be around because of how they choose their live. And you know what? That's great. They make their decision for themselves. That's fine. I'm not going to be judgmental, because I think people say, "Oh, no judging." I call bullshit. You're already judging. when you tell me no judging, that means you already made a judgment. And now you're trying to pretend that you're not judgmental.
Yeah, well, there's being judgmental, and then there is being judgmental.
Yeah.
Normal to judge things, but it's, I love when people accuse me of being judgmental. I'm the least judgmental person you're going to find. Like, somebody was telling me, dealing with a sensitive financial situation she had a mess. And it's like, I didn't ask her, "How did you screw up like this? How could you be so stupid?" I didn't even think those things, Orest. But she says to me, "I got the feeling you were being very judgmental." And I said, "I got the feeling you were projecting a lot." So it's like, hey, don't be judgy. I think that's the thing.
Yeah. And the question is, are you looking for a result, or do you want me to help you with your feelings?
Right. Go see a shrink. That's not my area of expertise. So, like when you get into these situations with people, like you said, a lot of it is choosing who not to be with. Just like success, a lot of leading a successful life financially isn't so much doing the right things. It's not doing the wrong things. It's staying away from the wrong things. And in this day and age, there are these energy vampires, people that just want to take advantage of you and use you and then toss you out like a squeezed grapefruit. And you have to be on your feet about this, right?
Yeah. Well, I get sometimes I get requests for information, and sometimes that request will come in a second time, and I usually will, okay, do it. But if somebody's asking me that request the third time, I have a conversation with them, and sometimes it starts off with, "Do you know what an asshole is?"
That's a new one on me, man. An asshole.
I know. An asshole is someone who is asking you for information, but they don't use it, and they keep on asking for the same information over and over.
Okay. So going back to podcasting for a minute.
Okay.
So you produce your podcast. How much time do you put into producing it? You like meticulous or just get it up?
I actually send it off to someone. We don't do any editing. Whatever happens during the podcast happens. We don't do any editing unless it's something like, sometimes you have to deal with bad bandwidth and all of a sudden you got dead space. But most of the time and then I send it off. I have somebody that does all the stuff for me, and so that's kind of how I handle that.
Very neat. All right. Well, hey, we actually produce in-house. I have a producer. Some of the shows I do my own editing. I like to do it because then I listen to myself. The concept of air checking. You ever had an air check before?
I've had some people do that for me, but not myself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They do it for you, and you have somebody who's non-judgmental, who is really constructive criticism. Could have said this better. Why said it this way? Not like, oh, you really screwed up here, Orest, man. What are you doing here? Why are you wasting your time? Nobody wants somebody to go piss on their parade, It's like, hey, if I didn't do a good job, I'm probably fairly aware of it myself. I don't need you pointing it out to me. Thank you very much. Hey, people want to find out more about you, Orest, connect with you on the web, watch your podcast. How do we connect with you?
You can find me. My blog is at Old Guy Talks, which is all very easy to find. And then my podcast is oldguytalkstome.com, and I'm also got a YouTube channel, and you can watch if you want to see me at my majestic splendor. You can catch me on YouTube. Otherwise, you can listen to me and find out stuff that will help you create that kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love.
Okay, and that's what it really is all about. Financial survival is not enough. You got to have a life worth living. And I love the fact what you were talking about, retirement. Just because you retire from your job doesn't mean that you retire from the human race. Here you are, 68 years old, a budding podcaster. You're going to be successful at it because it doesn't even matter to you if you are or not. And that's a great thing. And I think we can learn a lot from the old guy. There's a link in the show notes to your show, Orest. Really appreciate you coming on. Questions, comments for Orest, email me, kl@kerrylutz.com, or Twitter feeds @kerrylutz. And go over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for your free newsletter. Orest, we will be talking to you again soon. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Kerry, thanks for having me on your program.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.